Please, Lord, do not leave me, never leave me. Stay with me forever like this. Hi there, here I am again with my story about the true meaning of life. There are many teachings and philosophies and religions and philosophical systems and views about life, and many of them I have checked in my life, and always looking for true meaning and satisfaction for my hungry soul, but it was nowhere that I found consolation for myself for many, many years that I was looking for. And then, all of a sudden, when I expected nothing like this, it happened to me, it opened to me. The Lord came to me and He showed me the right way, the true way, the only way towards Him, towards Creator of the universe, towards immortality and eternal life, and real and true joy of life that I was looking everywhere, and I have almost killed myself. But thank God and thank all the heavens, I have found what I was looking for, and finally I came home. I came home when I first time after my childhood in New York City entered the Orthodox Christian church, and when I heard beautiful church chanting for the Holy Liturgy, and deep in myself I understood, finally I came home. Monastic life is the highest level of Christian life in general. Monastic life is great mystery. It's something most mystical and most sober at the same time. In the Far East religions and philosophies, I have found very sublime mysticism, but it was so slippery. You think you finally grasp it, but then it slips away, and you never know actually where to look, what to do, and how to fill yourself with that spirit that you're looking for. And it was always not really sober and standing on the ground, stable. But it was always like going back and forth, and you actually never know where you are and what really you're obliged to do. But finally, when I have discovered the Orthodox faith, and moreover, when I have discovered monastic life, I understood that this is something really sober, really awake, something that stands firmly on the ground, and at the same time it soars high in the heavens in very sublime mysticism, and it possesses the deepest mysteries of this life and of this creation. So this connection was perfect. Finally I have found what I was looking for, the highest mysticism and the purest sobriety. Of course, in the beginning, when I was still living in Brooklyn, New York, I didn't know that very well, and I was only reading about it in spiritual books that I have found. And slowly I was going into the teachings of the Holy Fathers, especially about monastic life, because it was really attracting me very much. Still, I was not sure whether I'm going to be a monk or a layman living in the world, having wife and children, and being a pious Orthodox Christian icon painter by profession. So I was still praying to the Lord to show me what is really my way. But reading those books, it was attracting me more and more, because I was realizing that this, what I'm looking for, most likely I am not going to find living in the world, no matter how pious, because those chips of, those bits of this spiritual life and the taste of the Holy Spirit and the God's grace that I have tasted, I was learning from them that to acquire them, man has to dedicate himself completely to this mystical way. And of course, when I was younger, I was thinking about monastic life, but of course not in the Christian church. It was still when I was a young man studying dentistry, but in the same time I was practicing Zen Buddhism, Zen Buddhist meditations, and also in the same time transcendental meditation. So in those years, when I was, let's say, 24, 25, 26, I was thinking maybe when I finish my dentistry, maybe I'm gonna go to India, somewhere in the north, closer to Himalaya, closer to Tibet, and there maybe in the beginning to work as a dentist and to see, to acquire and to inform myself about Hindu or Buddhist monastic life, and eventually to become a Buddhist monk. But it didn't happen. Now I can say thanks to the Lord. And now when I have discovered this precious pearl, the Orthodox Christian monasticism, in the books, of course, in the beginning, it came to my mind that this is basically what I was always looking for in my life. But still, I couldn't make a definite decision yet. And that's why I asked Father Makary to arrange me if I can go to that monastery where I was there for my first obedience to my first spiritual father, Father Makary. I've spent there 7 days and finally have decided to go there and to check myself definitely whether I am for monastic life or not. So Father Makary called again the abbot of the monastery and told him about my intention. So the abbot was very nice, and he said that I can come, of course, and spend there as much as I want. So it was, I was very happy to hear that, and it was a period of, it was end of the summer, 91. So it's like 23 years ago now. The time flies. So at that particular period of time, I didn't have any difficulties to leave New York because all my obligations that I had, I have finished or just put them in a way that they can wait until I come back. So I prepared big plywood board and everything which is necessary for painting. I have turned off all the devices in my apartment, and but I kept one window open for my tomcat called Micha, black cat. He was my good friend for, it was like almost, I was there like, I think something like already 6 months, and he was my good old friend. So I couldn't leave him on the street just like that. So I opened a window, I kept it open a little bit, and I covered it from outside so that burglars couldn't see that. So I said I bid farewell to my friend, and I set on my way towards Pennsylvania again. So when I have arrived, my first host was again Father Nicodim, the monk that I have met first time when I came to the monastery. He was in charge of the church, and he was intellectual and extremely good man. So he helped me a lot during this first month. They gave me a room in the dormitory building for the students because there was a theological seminary as well besides the monastery, and there I put my big board for the painting and have started to do this pretty big painting of Holy Transfiguration of the Jesus Christ on the Mount Tabor. So it was really very pleasant work for myself. I was enjoying painting Son of God, Jesus Christ, shining and glistering on the top of the mountain with prophets Moses and Elijah, and with apostles fallen down out of awe when they saw this extremely unusual transfiguration of the human body of the Son of God. So I was really trying to attend all the church services and the refectory hours, so to be completely together with monks everywhere and not to exclude myself from the everyday life, in order to really to taste and to see what is monastic life. Of course, I couldn't see this in 1 month that I was planning to stay there, but still, it was enough to see how do I react on all this early waking up, being in the church every day for more than 4 hours, sometimes even more, fasting, and of course keeping vigils and prayers as much as I was able to do that. So it was really beautiful, I have to admit, because the Lord gave me very often visitations of the God's grace, of the Holy Grace, and it was really beautiful. It was like a paradisical state. I just couldn't believe that something like this can happen to a human being without taking any drugs. I have to say it this way, because it was everything but not, well, let's say a regular, normal state. It was like really some very high state of mind all the time, but especially at certain moments when the grace would come and then everything would change, and I thought, this is immortality. This is how it is in paradise. Please, Lord, do not leave me, never leave me. Stay with me forever like this. And a few times it was so intense that I thought, I'm going to die. Human body, human being cannot stand this. Such a strong feeling of this power from above. And few times it happened in next to that lake where I was going to take a rest and to enjoy the nature. And it happened twice by the shore of this lake, so strong that I didn't know whether I am in the air or standing on the ground, or maybe I'm not alive anymore. Maybe I died and my soul is going up to the heavens. So it was so intense, and after that I thought that the grace is coming, especially on that place where that lake is. Of course, it came to my mind because of my lack of experience in spiritual things. So I thought that the grace is coming to us on certain places. Of course, it was a funny, idea, because grace comes to the human soul wherever we are. But in the beginning, when we are still not very experienced in these things, I was thinking that if I go back to that very spot by this lake, that I will grasp this grace again. So, but of course it didn't happen, because the grace is not bound to a certain place, of course. It comes where the Lord wants. And slowly I was learning more and more about that visitations of the Lord's grace, of the comings and leavings, if I can say this way. It was coming and leaving, and it was just, it would come when you never expected it. And when I was praying and fasting and keeping vigil, it wouldn't come. So I said, what is the rule? What is the system? How should I grasp this? And of course you cannot grasp it, because it belongs only to the Lord. It is His decision. When is He going to send this, and when is He going to take this away from us? So this way I was learning slowly what should I actually do for this coming of the grace, for the advent of the grace, and what should I do to keep it to be there as long as it is possible. Because sometimes if we are scattered with our mind, if we have some passionate thoughts in our mind, then the grace goes away very quickly, like a beautiful transparent butterfly. But then it comes again when we lament on it, when we say, oh Lord, forgive me, do not leave me. Before, when I didn't know you, it was the life was regular, sometimes gray and sad. But now, when I met you, now when I tasted the most beautiful taste of your love, now when you leave me, it is so painful, it is so sad, it is so sorrowful. Please teach me, what should I do to keep you in me, not to expel you from myself. So the days were passing by. I was painting, going to the church, having my praying hours. I was fasting, and I was in company with my new friend, Father Nicodim. Father Nicodim was extremely good man, and he was monk already for more than 15 years. So he had a pretty good experience in spiritual battle, and he was telling me really unselfishly many details from his life and many secrets of monastic life that maybe he wouldn't tell this to somebody else, but he realized that I'm really very into idea about eventually becoming a monk. So he was telling me everything that he knew from his own experience and from the Holy Fathers and books that he read in his life. And it was very, very extremely precious to me. So I remember once, and he told me, and I found this in books of the Holy Fathers, they say when a man enters spiritual life, then it is very possible to have a lot of temptations, and sometimes very grave temptations, very severe temptations, because the evil spirits, they don't want to lose us, because we all belong to them actually in this world. Of course, we are not aware of it, and very often we think we are good people, we do good things, but basically serving our passions, which is usually a common thing, even something that the society is pushing us to do, the society is recommending to do. Serving and being slaves to our passions, we are actually slaves to the evil spirits, to demons. So those demons are always around us, and they are very often inside of us, and they are giving us really hard time in our lives. And when they see that we are trying to get rid of them, to free ourselves from them, stepping on the spiritual way, on the way of cleansing our spirit and our soul, then they are ready to attack, to make really great temptations and tribulations in order to scare us, in order to frighten us, so that we would leave this way of life that we have already started. So I remember it was, I think, the 20th day of my stay in the monastery of St. Tikhon's of Zadonsk. I was sleeping at night. I think it was like something between midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. I was in deep sleep. I have remembered a dream. I was dreaming myself sleeping in a bed. And I saw in my dream myself, I woke up for a certain reason. I didn't know why. So I was dreaming myself laying in the bed, and that I woke up suddenly because of some reason, and I didn't know what it is. So I was like laying down in my bed, and all of a sudden I felt that something is moving underneath my blanket. So with a certain fear, I thought to myself, what it could be, I mean, underneath my blanket, except my body. But then I realized that something is moving, and what I did, I lifted a little bit the cover of the blanket, although it was dark. I mean, it was, of course, it was night and the light was off. But in my dream, it was light enough underneath my blanket. As a matter of fact, there was a light, some kind of light coming from underneath my blanket. So when I lifted up the end of my blanket with a terrible horror, I have seen that underneath my blanket there is a great space, and from that, and it was darkness far away, but certain very strange dark light was coming from that darkness, and from the center of that darkness, with a great terror and great horror, I have seen, you would never guess, I have seen my friend Father Nicodim, monk Nicodim, completely dressed in a monastic robe, like when monks go to the church, but at the same time, it was not him. It was his face, it was his body, it was his garment, but it was some terrible creature with his face, but with blood-red eyes, with long, dirty black nails on his hands. And he was laughing with yellow and ugly teeth. And he was coming towards me. He was coming towards me with his hands and with those terrible nails, or better to say claws, towards me to catch me. And at that moment, I was so frightened. And thank God I woke up and I have realized it was a dream. But actually, it was not a dream. The demon was really there. And he just disguised himself in a form of my beloved Father Nicodim to make this horror even more terrifying. So I did wake up, but I didn't really get rid of this terrible fear that fell on me, came to my mind, came to my soul. And I was trembling, and it was really, I think maybe I have never got scared so much like that night. So I woke up, I jumped out of the bed, I turned the light on, and I fell in front of the icons. There was the icon of the Holy Mother of the Lord and Saint Nicholas. So I felt my knees, and I was praying fervently to them, especially to the Mother of the Lord, to save me and to expel this evil spirit which was in my room. I was still feeling him being there in the room, although I couldn't see him anymore, but I felt his presence. It was so terrifying. I was trembling and my whole body was shaking. I was really, I just cannot explain how terrible it was, because I was definitely sure it was not a nightmare. It was real contact with hell. This terrible creature was coming from the very hell, and it was a real demon, but he just took the form of my beloved Father Nicodim. So after, let's say, 20-25 minutes of prayer, I came a little bit to myself, and I calmed down a little bit, but of course, and I realized that it was something like 2 o'clock in the morning, and definitely I couldn't sleep anymore. So what I did is I just came back to the bed, but I didn't lay down anymore. I sat in the bed and I leaned on my pillow against the wall. I kept the light on, I took my prayer rope and I started to pray. And slowly, I was calming down and I was coming to my senses, and I have realized that finally that the Lord helped me to escape this terrible creature and to escape this hold of him.
Sego radi ne voskresno nečestivi na sud, niže griješnici vo sovjet pravedni, aliluja. Jakov jest Gospod put pravedni, put nečestivi pogibnet, aliluja. Slava Otcu i Sinu i Svjatomu Duhu, i ninje i prisno i vo vijeki vjekova. Amin. Aliluja, 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 slava Tebje Bože. Aliluja, 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 slava Tebje Bože. Aliluja, 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 slava Tebje Bože.